What is a C cubed school? What is C cubed schooling? I am Jana Clements, and I've been talking a lot about this lately, but not everyone's got the time to go and look up my hugely long hour-and-a-half videos on the topic. So I've decided to make a short video series, a short series of brief videos that you can take in little bite-sized chunks whenever it suits you. So let's get started with the basics. When competition in education is intensified by cohorting and compulsion, that's when you get what I've started calling the C cubed model. Now let's have a look at that in more detail. Here's a roughly scaled visualization of our traditional approaches to education. Firstly, we've got around 200,000 odd years of human evolution as a hunter-gatherer species. And there we've got free play with children playing all day, sometimes completely out of sight of adults with peers, and then also being completely able to be included with adult activities so that they can see what the adults and the older kids are doing and copy it. For example, you see even today, it seems to be in our bones to want to make bows and arrows and shelters in childhood when we're free to do so. And then, of course, you've also got mentoring, where if a child has a particular interest in a particular skill, they would gravitate towards that member in the group who already knows how to do that, whether that's an older peer or an adult who's going to help their skill develop. And this is actually traditional education. And then if you wanted to call the next thing traditional, it would still be fair enough because it's sort of got a couple of, like 20,000 odd years or something in terms of the agricultural societies, where we've still got mostly free play, mimicry, and mentoring. But now we've also got more formal apprenticeship, whereas you might previously have gravitated towards somebody in your immediate environment who knew the skills. Now you start seeing people travel to go and study with during that kind of era of our history. Then we move to our urban societies where things really start getting complex. And there we do start actually seeing schools with curricula and subjects, although not full C cubed yet. But these are also very rare. They are not for everybody by any means. They're very specific, for example, for warriors or bureaucrats or the children of the aristocracy, for example, who might be going to those. So where's our C cubed? Well, as we know it today, school with compulsory age grading, subjects, curriculum, tests and exams and rankings is that little thin red line at the end. I don't know if you can even see it. And it really doesn't deserve the word traditional. Which is why I've been calling it C cubed, because let's get clear on what distinguishes it from all other approaches to education. So what's the problem with it? Firstly, that word traditional makes it feel very legitimate, very valid. We've always done it this way. We've got good reason. It's our heritage. We need to lose that word is the first problem with it. But secondly, if we have a look at this, competitive tests and exams and ranking, cohorted, age-segregated, ranked and streamed, compulsory in every sense, not just in terms of attendance, but in terms of time and place. You have to be in this classroom, even in this desk, at this hour, with this teacher, with these companions. You have to be studying not only these subjects, but this subject matter, this hour, today, in this way, with this method. It's hugely coercive. And let's look at that again. It's very, very recent. It's really not traditional. So we don't have any reason to keep it just because it's here. So what reason do we have to keep it? Well, a good reason would be if it really works well for education. Now, for most of us, we assume that it does because that's all we know. But now when we began it, we didn't have any research to actually reality check that. We just inherited it. So what's the issue now? The issue now is that now we have actual research. For the last even over 100 years, more than half the time that C cubed has been in existence, we've started looking at it and seeing that there are problems with C cubed. And we started trying to figure out what the problems with C cubed actually are. what is the problem with this recent practice? And there's all sorts of things that keep cropping up. And one of them is that routine competitive grading actually doesn't have any benefit to the student. It doesn't help them learn, and it can even impact their motivation in toxic ways. Competition actually isn't necessary for education, and it's actually anti educational. So that's one of the things that we found. Another is that age mixing is hugely beneficial, and cohorting actually isn't. It's not necessary for education, and it can even be anti educational as well. And we've also found that compulsion, in and of itself, forcing people to do something against their will, not necessary for education, can actually really get in the way. So, all three of these things that we've managed to build into our structure are problematic. Now, the problem is that we're so used to seeing what we grew up with, because pretty much everybody watching this video will have gone through a C-cubed system, unless you are really an outlier right now. And so we just see what we know, we see what we expect to see, and we can miss what's staring us in the face. And we start looking for all sorts of solutions, like let's have more pastoral care, or let's make our classrooms more colorful, or let's do more project-based, all of which would be great if we weren't dealing with a system that's going to undermine all of that as fast as we try to make it happen. We try to put human rights content into the curriculum, or put in decolonized content, not realizing that we need to find a new way to look at what we're dealing with. We need to see what's staring us in the face that we haven't been able to see before. Because we can look forever at this pattern over here, and we can go, yeah, no, I know how to look at a picture. I can see it's brown and it's got blobby stuff, and there's sort of these slightly curvy things, and, I can see what's there. And then if I tell you, but there's a car there, what do you mean there's a car there? You're a mad woman. You're talking nonsense. These weird hippie people who want us to see problems in education that ain't there. Well, there's a car there. And if we know how to focus our eyes, that will pop up in 3D in a way that we cannot miss it anymore. Once we've seen it, we can't unsee. And this is where there's sort of a bit of a problem between the people who've experienced something other than C-cubed, saying, guys, this way of education is not a great idea. And others going, what are you talking about? It works perfectly fine. So that's where we need to learn how to look differently at C-cubed, so we can see what we're actually dealing with. If you want to play with that concept of the stereogram picture, the most famous site is magiceye.com, and they've got loads of lovely things you can play with. Learning to focus your eyes by looking through the picture rather than at the picture, which is also a nice metaphor. Don't look at the surface. Get a long vision and you start to see what's going on. Anyway, point is, this short video series aims to help us all look differently at schooling together, not in a divided, antagonistic way, because we're all in this together. And, these problems that we have aren't anybody's fault at this point in history. It's just we've ended up in the situation that we need to be able to get out of. And in order to do that, we need to see differently so that we can see what we need to do differently. Not blindly, just hoping something will eventually work, and not just getting lost in identity politics where, I'll say the opposite to you because you're, from the opposite group, but with a real understanding of what it is that's been going wrong, so that we can actually change it in a way that is effective and good for all of us. So I would like to start by looking at what C-cubed does to play and playfulness, and why that matters. Because it might sound quite irrelevant, because of course C-cubed has taught us that play is not relevant to education. And a lot of us are starting to wake up to the fact that that is very, very not true. So we'll do that in the very next video in the series. And I hope to see you there whenever you are ready.